And I knew that, you know what, I will always be able to trust me because I will always have my back. Because I know that I love me, I know that I support me, and I know that I always have my best interest in mind. So it doesn't matter who could betray me, because I knew that from now on, I wouldn't. I knew that I could rely on myself for anything that I needed, and so all of that mental chatter slowly went away completely because my body felt reassured with my every response. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I have been making content for a while about self-improvement, healing, and understanding yourself. And if you're returning, you've probably noticed a shift. Over time, I realized that my real power wasn't just in self-growth, but it was in love, and more precisely in self-love. I've spent years single, healing, learning, and falling in love with my own life. I learned how to stop chasing people and start choosing myself. I learned how to be happy on my own, how to feel secure without constant reassurance, and how to attract love that actually feels calm instead of chaotic. That's where everything changed for me. And now that's what I want to teach you, how to become so fulfilled on your own that love just naturally finds you. This is why I'm pivoting the channel. And the goal now, it's simple, is to help you stop searching for the one and start becoming the one. And by doing the inner work, by healing your attachment styles, by understanding your triggers, by building emotional and relational self-awareness, you will naturally attract the kind of love that is healthy, that is secure, and that is effortless. Every episode will be about giving you the tools, the insights, and the guidance to do that work and to stop repeating the same patterns. Because the love you want starts with you. Today we're talking about how I turned my anxious attachment style to a secure one, which allowed me to create the most healthy, secure, and loving relationship with myself. And as a result, attract the most healthy, secure, and loving relationship that I have ever been into. I can very confidently say that healing my anxious attachment style has been one of the hardest and at the same time the most rewarding things that I have ever done in my life. For so many years, my anxious attachment controlled the way that I showed up in my relationships, and as a result, it controlled my life. It controlled my mood, it controlled my emotions. And it wasn't until I became aware of it that I was able to heal it and become secure. And in today's video, I'm going to teach you how you can too go from anxious to secure in your relationships, and how you could do that in a simple way without endless over analyzing and waiting for years for it to just happen. Because when you do shift into security, you might find it hard to imagine right now, but you finally stop chasing. You stop doubting yourself and you start attracting the kind of love and the kind of stability that you have always wanted, but you never seemed to get. Turning my anxious attachment style into a secure one, it's actually one of my most proud achievements. And not only because it's hard to do so, but especially because I was able to do this in such a short time as soon as I became aware of its hold on my life. I used to honestly be the most anxious person in dating and in relationships. It was so bad that I thought that I would end up being alone forever. I literally have been conditioned to believe that in order to be loved, I needed to bend, I needed to shapeshift, and I needed to completely change who I was. And so, in my attempt to earn love, I ended up putting myself in the position of self-abandoning, chasing unavailable partners, and struggling to get past that initial dating phase. My attachment style really made me think that, oh, you know what, there must be something wrong with me. I must be the only person on earth that is struggling with this, because it seems like everyone else finds it so easy to be in relationships, to date even. So then it seems like that I must be the problem. It wasn't just exhausting. It literally kept me stuck in the same patterns of how I thought, of how I felt, and the type of people that I kept attracting. I used to have this disturbing belief that if I wanted true love, if I wanted someone that is going to accept me totally and wholly, then that means that I should accept their behavior totally too, whether that behavior was right or not. I didn't understand yet that true love is actually birthed from a place of self love and self acceptance, and never ever from a place of self abandonment and rejection. I literally remember the day that I somehow stepped into attachment theory. My mind was so blown because everything finally started to make sense. And from then on, I have spent so much of my time studying attachment theory, reading every book on it, and listening to every type of video either on YouTube or podcast that I could find so I could understand more of my type. And the more that I learned, the more I understood. And the more insights that I gained, the more I could connect them with the patterns of my own love life. So I journaled my way through it, and finally I could see bright as day all of the things that I was doing wrong and how actually a secure and healthy attachment style would react instead. All of that information and all of the insights that I gathered truly opened my eyes, and just by becoming aware of all those unconscious habits and all of these unconscious ways that I was acting, just by becoming aware, I was able to shift the dynamic completely. And that is because now that I knew them, I couldn't keep choosing them because I understood that they could never give me what I wanted. I understood then that getting a different outcome, it requires me to take a different action. So I did, and slowly but surely I went from anxious and insecure to feeling calm and grounded and secure in myself and in my relationships. And as I kept doing the work, something started to shift. I stopped caring about being in a relationship. I started actually enjoying being single for the first time ever in my life. I enjoyed my own company. I enjoyed taking myself out on dates, spoiling myself with the things that I knew that I loved. And I started spending real quality time with me. I learned how to become my own best friend, someone that I could always rely on, and I finally felt worthy and deserving of love. Not because someone told me that I was, but because I finally gave myself the evidence that I am lovable every single day through the way that I showed up for myself, the way I spoke to myself, and the way that I loved myself. I became genuinely happy and whole on my own, something that I didn't ever think that was possible before. I even remember at some point I started thinking, you know what, whoever ends up with me is going to be so lucky. So I carried that mindset, and I stopped wasting my time going on dates or entertaining people who didn't deserve my time, who didn't deserve my energy. And whenever things didn't work out, I didn't spiral anymore. I just thought, okay, this isn't meant for me and it's not working for a reason. I genuinely believe that, okay, God has a better plan for me. I became such a green flag that it was only a matter of time before I attracted another one. And because I became that version of me, I was able to attract the most healthy, secure, and loving relationship that I have ever experienced. One that is genuinely a mirror of the love and the peace that I have built within myself. And you know what? If my past self was listening to me right now, talking about this, telling this story, she would have never believed me. My younger self would never believe that I will end up with a person that feels like a real life Prince Charming. Because when I was young, I really believed that I was out there, but I didn't know if it was possible for me. You know what? I thought I'll have to settle for something watered down. But what I ended up attracting was even more than I have ever imagined. Something that is safe, something that is effortless, something that is so deeply connected. And that's exactly why I'm doing this now, because I know what it's like to doubt if you will ever have a healthy relationship, let alone your dream one. I know what it is like to think that maybe you're asking for too much, but you're not. The kind of love that you want is real and it's closer than you think. Everything that I'm about to share with you are the exact shifts that helped me get there. These aren't just some theories or some quick fixes, some games that you can apply so you can manipulate your way through a relationship. These are the things that took me from an anxious and insecure person in my relationships to a grounded, calm, and secure one in both myself and my relationships. So trust me when I tell you that these things I'm going to share with you today work, because they cured my incurable singleness. So if this worked for me, then I'm so certain that are going to work for anyone. So if you want to go from anxious to secure, let's get into it. The first key insight that I have realized and that I genuinely believe is responsible for more than 50% of the work in shifting me from anxious to secure was the realization that I needed to stop outsourcing my worth. When you're anxious, your value depends on how someone else feels about you. So one text can literally make or break your day. How someone perceived you or treated you could literally shift your whole self-image. Your whole self-image, your whole self-perception, and your self-worth is at the hands of someone else. And somehow, in my head, this was so normal. And that was because I have spent all of my life waiting to be externally validated and externally approved in order for me to have permission to consider myself as good enough. My own opinion didn't matter. And that is because I never thought that it did. I thought that I would have to spend the rest of my life being measured by someone else's tape. And this belief wasn't conscious, obviously. I didn't think, only external validation and external approval matters. It's what subconsciously ruled my life. So because this was so subconscious and I was so unaware of it, it literally took control of how I perceived things. It wasn't until I learned that secure, healthy attachments are self-validated, that their entire self-worth and value actually comes from themselves, that I realized how opposite I had them in my mind. I had to learn that my worth doesn't live in someone else's opinion. It lives in me. And the moment that I started shifting my focus from externally to internally, it is like my whole world came upside down. I instantly started to see myself differently. I no longer waited around for anyone or anything to tell me that I'm good for me to feel good. So I started treating myself as I was already good. And I can't tell you the effect that the change of my self-image had on my confidence, on the way that I showed up, and as a result, the way that people treated me in return. I literally no longer cared about impressing anyone, especially when it came to dating. My whole focus shifted from them being on the pedestal to me being on the pedestal. I started doing things and making choices simply because they pleased me. They were now internally motivated. The thought of choosing something based on external factors didn't even exist in my mind anymore. It was like all that unnecessary noise went away, and all of my attention and all of my focus was finally free to go on what would please me. What will I enjoy more? What sounds more fun to me? I showed up in ways that made me feel good, and not because I thought it would score me some points with someone else. Once I got self-validated, literally nothing felt the same since. The satisfaction of getting externally validated by someone else felt so watered down compared to the feeling and the wholeness that I felt when I gave myself the validation, when I gave myself the approval that I was seeking. Because at the end of the day, even when you seek this from someone else, even when you seek this approval from someone else, you only do so because you can have permission to feel it for yourself. So I just took away all of the steps in between, all of these false needs for permission, and I just gave the permission straight to myself. And trust me when I tell you, my cup was full for the first time in my life, and it was filled by me. And because it came from me, it was like my thirst was completely satisfied. And do you know the reason why? When you stop outsourcing your worth and you start validating yourself, all of a sudden, out of anywhere, everyone starts to treat you better too. Well, first of all, because you are no longer desperate for them to validate you. And desperation is the most powerful deterrent when it comes to love. Actually, it's the most powerful deterrent in all of the things that you want to attract. No one wants to be with someone that are desperate, because this is a signal that there's something wrong here. People are consciously understand that desperation means low self-worth. And so of course I find that unattractive, right? I mean, see it from your perspective. Would you ever want to be with someone that is desperately wanting you, needing you, clinging on you? No matter how much you want a relationship, even then you would say no and you would rather being alone. And that is because people feel like people who are like this are not adding in their lives, but actually they are taking away. And secondly, the reason why when you start treating yourself better, everyone treats you better too, is because our outer reality is a mirror that reflects our inner reality. So when you think poorly of yourself and you treat yourself badly, of course then other people are going to do the same thing to you too, and vice versa. So this is the biggest hack to check. If you see your external reality not treating you as you will like it, then this is a sign and an indication that you are the one that is in the first place treating you poorly and not giving you what you want. So that's why becoming your own source of worth and value is the biggest game changer in the dating game. And it's the foundational step in turning from anxious to secure. Because if you think about it, when you're outsourcing your worth, it is like you're trying to build a house on a crooked land. When your base is crooked, you could never build something on it and feel like you're stable and secure. You will always feel unsafe until you feel the ground beneath you is safe, secure, and stable and unshakable. The second key insight that transformed my anxious attachment to a secure one was learning to regulate my nervous system. Anxious attachment isn't just in your head. It is actually very much in your body. The reason why you are reacting with anxiety to love and to relationships, it is because your body is used to interpreting any slight sign as a threat. When you think about it logically, if someone doesn't respond to your texts, or when you go on a date with someone and you don't hit it off, or when after a dating phase, someone realizes that what you have won't develop into a relationship. Logically, you think, okay, this is not the end of the world, right? But the issue with anxious attachment styles is the wrong interpretation of those circumstances. You take those signs as a complete threat to your survival. And that is because when you were a child, any sign that you got that you were not being loved, it made your existence feel threatened. And that is because as children, all of us, we rely on our parents' love so deeply. And that is also because our survival relies heavily on how much we are loved and how much we're looked after by them. So it makes sense that love and survival is connected for all of us humans. The difference with anxious attachments is that they had an early experience as children where they felt that the lack of love it threatened their survival. So now as adults they are more anxious and more fearful of having that experience being repeated because they know how bad it feels and they know how negatively it impacted them. So they're trying very hard to avoid that from happening again. But unfortunately, this means that because their nervous system is completely dysregulated by such experiences and they want to avoid these circumstances so badly, it means that they are more likely to attract them. And that is because everything that is unconscious is trying to make itself conscious and to be seen. So if you have an anxious attachment style, just by becoming aware of this unconscious fear, it could literally make all of the difference, because now you have shed light to it. You have made the unconscious conscious, and so it doesn't have the same hold on you anymore. By having that awareness and by having that realization that not receiving love is not as life-threatening, you start wiring your brain, you start rewiring your brain to perceive these signs instead of as threats, as nothing. Because in reality, they really are nothing. They really are not threatening your survival. Just the realization itself helps so much to soothe your nervous system, but there's so many other things that you could do that you could help your nervous system get even more regulated, because it's not something that you just do and your nervous system feels calmer, feels secure, feels safe from it. It's something that you will have to remind yourself again and again. You could also incorporate breath work, journaling, pausing before reacting. All of these things, I use them myself and they taught me how to soothe myself first instead of going externally and demanding reassurance by someone else. And the final step that helped me transform my anxious attachment to secure was reprogramming the story that I told myself. Anxious people live in what ifs. What if they leave? What if I'm not good enough? What if I stay alone forever? What if this happens? What if that happens? Living in this state of mental chatter and noise keeps you completely grounded in anxiety. And that is because your brain keeps coming up with potential scenarios of you getting hurt, and therefore this puts you in a state of feeling unsafe, feeling under threat. So this tells your nervous system that your survival is in danger, and this makes the loop of anxiety continue again and again. We are so unaware and we don't understand how our internal commentary has the power to either block our blessings or let them in. When you change the way you think and the way you speak about what it is that is coming to you and what you are receiving, the outcome of those things will be influenced accordingly. And so it really depends on how closely you are paying attention. This realization made me understand the need to completely change the story and the narrative that I tell myself. I knew that I had to rewrite that. So instead of what if they leave me, what if they don't love me, I started asking myself, what if I can love myself enough to walk away from anything less? So in every threatening scenario, I learned to give myself a reassuring response, letting myself know that whatever happens, I got my back. And so it doesn't matter what others do, because I can't control that, but I can definitely control myself. And I knew that, you know what, I will always be able to trust me, because I will always have my back, because I know that I love me, I know that I support me, and I know that I always have my best interest in mind. So it doesn't matter who could betray me, because I knew that from now on, I wouldn't. I knew that I could rely on myself for anything that I needed, and so all of that mental chatter slowly went away completely, because my body felt reassured with my every response. A key thing here is to teach yourself, even while you're dating or when you're in a relationship, to not expect the worst. To, yes, be aware and be mindful of what is happening, but to not always be ready to believe the worst is going to come. I used to have a very hard time with that. I used to always be ready to jump to negative conclusions. When I saw like a red flag sign, I will like magnify it and make it so much better in my head. So I had to instead embrace an attitude, you know what, everything happens for me. I trust that everything happens for my highest good. I trust myself. I am grounded in myself. So I don't need to get triggered and lose myself whenever a slightly threatening situation, meaning something that seemed like a red flag, popped up. Yes, of course, I will have to communicate and I'm gonna ask questions and try to understand the situation, but I will do it from a place of self-trust no matter the outcome. I wouldn't think the worst and expect the worst, because this is basically telling myself that, oh, look, you are not safe with anyone. Anyone could come and hurt me. It's so important to teach yourself to not expect the worst, because otherwise you keep yourself constantly in a fight or flight situation, that anything could happen that could shake off the waters, that could shake off the relationship, and this drains not only you but also the other person. So you have to make sure to keep a balance of trust and not expect for things to flip at any moment. To show some trust towards yourself, towards the person that you have with you, and also towards your intuition, to trust that person. But that of course comes with building already that relationship of trust with yourself, and from then on you can rely on that self-trust to guide you. The point is that things could go right or wrong, and you could never know when and where they could take a wrong turn. So if you think about it, you truly can never fully relax, and you can never truly take things for granted that they're going to be safe and stay the same for all eternity. And so that's why the stories and the things that you tell yourself could make all the difference in building that self-trust that you need in order to go through dating and to go through relationships. Because you have to understand, you should always be able to rely on yourself but never on others. So when you have this self-trust with yourself and know that no matter what, even I'm with someone, things don't work out, I always will have me, and I'm fine with that. I trust that if that happens for my highest good, I trust that I will be able to handle that. I trust that I will be able to heal from that, and this thing will not completely destroy me as it did in the past. So the story you tell yourself becomes the reality that you live. So when I understood that I needed to make sure that the story that I tell myself is a good one, because it will really create the reality that I will end up living. You understand this by now, that we have all the control. And so how secure and how safe we feel with our relationships starts with how secure and how safe we are in our relationship with ourselves. So the moral of the story is that in order to build a secure attachment that is going to lead you to a secure, healthy relationship, the one prerequisite is that you need to firstly build a secure and healthy relationship with yourself. Meaning to fill your own cup, to be your own source of worth and value, putting yourself and your opinion on the pedestal instead of putting others, to soothe yourself and to feel protected and taken care of by you, and to speak to yourself with confidence and self-belief, trusting that, no matter what, I have my back. So if you want to start becoming secure, start with these 3 shifts that we talked about today. Start owning your worth, start regulating your nervous system, and start rewriting the story in your head. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, wow, my God, that's exactly what I struggle with, trust me, I get it, because I have been there and I know what it feels like to be so overwhelmed and wanting to change things as soon as possible so you can finally be free of this situation, be free of these compulsions and patterns that keep you stuck in this pattern of relationships. So if you want to break free from these anxious attachment patterns and you want to finally feel secure in yourself and in your relationships, you can always reach out to me. You can send a message to me or connect with me through the links in the description, and I would love to help you start your own transformation and to finally attract the secure relationship that you've always dreamed of. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I love you. And if you have any questions or any more topics that you would like me to cover in the next episodes, you can always let me know in the comments below. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.